7 ordinary choices turned medicine cabinets into scenes of national fear. A familiar pain reliever suddenly carried a question no family expected. Chicago woke to scattered emergencies before anyone saw one pattern. The first reports sounded medical, but the timing felt deeply wrong. On September 29, 1982, confusion moved faster than answers. Mary Kellerman was 12, and her morning became painfully historic. Her parents sought help, not knowing a capsule carried poison. Hours later, another household faced a crisis with terrible similarity. Adam Janis collapsed after taking extra-strength Tylenol for discomfort. Family members gathered, searching for comfort inside sudden medical chaos. Stanley and Teresa Janis also took capsules from the bottle. 3 relatives were gone before investigators understood the shared source. Nearby, other deaths deepened the fear across Chicago's suburbs that week. Mary McFarland became another name investigators could not ignore for long. Mary Reiner's death added grief to an already impossible pattern. Paula Prince's final purchase left investigators with haunting surveillance questions. 7 victims, different places, 1 product, and no clear offender. The pattern was hidden inside bottles ordinary shoppers trusted completely. Doctors saw cyanide speed before police saw its larger meaning. One public health worker noticed something others had not connected. Helen Jensen examined the Janis home with urgent practical caution. A receipt and missing capsules turned grief into possible evidence. The bottle no longer looked like medicine, looked like warning. Investigators began asking whether the danger remained on store shelves. Every pharmacy aisle suddenly carried fear no label could explain. Police and health officials faced a threat without a suspect. Announcements urged people to stop taking Tylenol immediately across Chicago. The warnings spread through radios, televisions, offices, kitchens, and cars. Parents opened medicine cabinets with trembling hands and unfamiliar sudden suspicion. Routine packaging became evidence, and every seal invited close inspection. Johnson & Johnson ordered a sweeping recall that changed corporate history. Millions of bottles were pulled before certainty had fully arrived. The company's response became part of the case's public memory. But recall could not answer who had touched those capsules. Investigators found contaminated bottles connected to different stores and neighborhoods. That detail shifted suspicion away from one simple manufacturing explanation. Different production sources pointed toward tampering after products reached shelves. The theory was chilling because it required ordinary retail access. Someone may have bought bottles, poisoned capsules, then returned them. That possibility made every shelf feel like an unsecured crime scene. Detectives searched stores where victims had purchased or handled Tylenol. Receipts, lot numbers, and capsule counts became urgent investigative language. Pharmacists and clerks were questioned while customers watched in silence. The investigation expanded through suburbs with maps, calls, and pressure. Arlington Heights became one important center of the early timeline. Elk Grove Village carried grief tied to the Janis family. Chicago investigators reviewed Paula Prince's Walgreens purchase with new urgency. A surveillance image showed her near a man police studied. The photograph raised questions, but it did not solve identity. Public attention focused on faces, movements, and ordinary store routines. Each location mattered because the offender could have blended in. The case forced investigators to study normal behavior as evidence. Capsules were easier to open then, before stronger safety packaging. That weakness became central to understanding exactly how contamination happened. The poison was potassium cyanide, hidden inside familiar medication capsules. Testing transformed a household product into proof of deliberate tampering. Yet scientific certainty did not provide a name or motive. The motive remained one of the case's most difficult questions. Was it revenge, extortion, control, or something investigators never saw? No responsible answer could outrun the absence of direct evidence. Authorities received tips, theories, and fear from across the country. The case became the largest product tampering investigation of its era. Federal, state, and local investigators moved under enormous public pressure. Every lead carried hope, but many led nowhere reliable at all. Copycat fears complicated the search and widened public anxiety nationwide. The original victim still remained at the center of everything. Mary Kellerman was not a symbol, she was a child. Adam Janus was a father, husband, and grieving family's anchor. Stanley and Teresa Janus were mourned inside the same family tragedy. Mary McFarland left behind loved ones, forced into public grief. Mary Reiner's family faced loss while awaiting a child's birth. Paula Prince became linked forever to one final store image. Respecting their lives means refusing to reduce them to evidence. But evidence was the path investigators had to follow carefully. Teams examined bottles, capsules, handwriting, purchases, and possible access points. They needed a person, not just a method or theory. The offender's path through stores remained frustratingly difficult to reconstruct. Public fear changed how Americans looked at medicine packaging forever. Tamper-resistant seals became a national expectation after the poisonings. Federal law later made product tampering a more serious crime. Policy changed, but justice for 7 victims remained painfully unfinished. Then a letter shifted attention toward a man named James Lewis. The letter demanded money from Johnson & Johnson to stop killings. Lewis was arrested and convicted for extortion, not the murders. He denied poisoning the capsules throughout years of renewed scrutiny. Investigators considered him important, but charges for murder never came. That distinction remains essential in any responsible discussion of the case. A suspect in headlines is not the same as conviction. Lewis's statements, writings, and timing kept investigators interested for decades. Yet public suspicion never became courtroom proof of the poisonings. He died in 2023, leaving questions without testimony. His death closed one avenue, but not the official mystery. Other names surfaced, but responsible evidence stayed limited and disputed. Roger Arnold was investigated, though never charged in the poisonings. Later violence involving Arnold deepened public fascination, not confirmed guilt. The case attracted theories because certainty remained painfully out of reach. Some theories focused on store tampering by one unknown person. Others questioned whether more than one actor could be involved. Investigators publicly favored local shelf tampering based on bottle patterns. But the exact movements remain uncertain after more than 40 years. How many stores were visited and when remains unanswered today. How the poison was obtained also remains publicly unresolved decades later. Why those neighborhoods were targeted remains another open public question. The randomness may have been part of the intended terror, or investigators may have missed a connection still hidden somewhere. Cold cases survive inside documents, not only memories and headlines. Boxes of reports kept the unanswered details from disappearing completely. In 2007, a task force renewed investigative attention. New technology offered hope where old methods had reached limits. DNA testing, fingerprints, and forensic review returned to the case. Still, testing could not publicly name the person responsible for everything. Every renewed lead carried the weight of decades already lost. Families waited through anniversaries, documentaries, articles, and official silence for decades. Public memory kept returning to the same terrible unanswered question. Who could make ordinary medicine feel dangerous everywhere in America? The case also revealed how quickly public trust can collapse. Parents, patients, and shoppers changed their routines almost overnight afterward. Store shelves became places of caution instead of everyday convenience. Companies redesigned packaging because fear had entered the marketplace permanently. Yet packaging reform was prevention, not complete justice for families. Behind every reform stood 7 families without full answers still. The documentary record often centers suspects, but families carried time alone. Grief did not end when the national panic faded away. Investigators aged, files thickened, and public attention moved elsewhere slowly. But unresolved cases do not truly leave the communities involved. The Tylenol murders remained criminal investigation and public safety lesson together. One case changed packaging, policing, corporate response, and consumer trust. Still, the person responsible remained outside public accountability for decades. Confirmed detail, more important, not less. The beginning matters because early confusion shaped the whole investigation. Minutes mattered when doctors, families, and officials lacked enough context. Connections formed only after separate tragedies began speaking together clearly. Evidence emerged from homes, hospitals, stores, and laboratory results gradually. No single scene explained everything. The pattern had to assemble. That assembly came too late for 7 innocent people already gone. Responsibility remained hidden behind ordinary packaging and everyday routines for years. The case asks whether systems can react before patterns emerge. It also asks who becomes visible during sudden public fear. The victims' names deserve more attention than the offender's unknown identity. Mary Kellerman, Adam Janus, Stanley Janus, Teresa Janus, and Mary McFarland, remembered. Mary Reiner and Paula Prince remain part of that record too. Together, their stories made the danger impossible to dismiss anymore. Every unanswered question should return first to their humanity today. Investigators still face the silence left by missing proof today. Time can weaken evidence, but it cannot erase responsibility entirely. The case remains officially unsolved, despite decades of intense attention. That uncertainty is not mystery entertainment. It is unfinished accountability. America changed its bottles, but one question stayed open afterward. Who placed poison where families expected ordinary relief and safety? The answer may still rest inside overlooked paper, memory, or science. Until then, the beginning remains the most haunting evidence of all. Quiet shelves remember what official files still cannot explain today. The warning labels changed, but the grief never simply ended. Some cases are solved by proof, others wait without mercy. For 7 families, the question remained painfully personal for decades. The first capsule still casts the longest shadow over everything today.